Alrighty, our first interview for 2026 is Marc Hawes. Marc Hawes is a voice actor, live action actor, writer, singer, and the biggest thing we're going to talk about today, voice director. But before we get into any of that, Mark, tell us about yourself, just unfiltered. Tell us who is Marc Hawes.
I mean, I think you just did it, dude. Honestly, thank you. You got all my multi hyphenates, I think. You know, at the core base of it is I am someone who likes to have a good time and likes to make sure the people that I'm with, no matter what I'm doing and are also experiencing that in the same way, and I think I try to do that in my acting, in my direction, and also when I was a teacher and when I still teach. So, I try to uplift, put forth good positive vibes, in a nutshell, that's who I am in a nutshell, regardless of all those multi hyphenates, right? Those are all the other things that I like to do as well. But in a nutshell, I try to be everybody's best cheerleader, and uplift people because we know we need to be uplifted right now. So with just the world and everything else. But going into me, I am I think at the very crux of it, I'm a storyteller. Um, I love stories, in whatever medium that they come in whatever medium I'm able to be involved or tell them in, whether or not I'm a listener, a passive experience, a person in that, or I'm an active participant in telling the story. So, it started way back when I was super young, but I went to go see a little show, called Annie the musical, and it was at my high school. I was God, I don't know, 8. I've told this story a couple of times, so my age that I was when I watched it was probably changes. Um, but I blame my mom, because she was just like, "You that could be you one day." And I was, like, sitting on the edge of my seat going like, "Wait, really? Really, that could be me?" And so she kinda sparked that interest in that kind of thing about, like, theater and musical theater specifically, and so that kind of started my journey as to where I went and decided to, I loved music. So I was a high school music teacher for 3 years. And then I went back and got my master's in acting in England. And then I moved out here to LA, all while still doing theater intermittently in there. And then, on camera, acting and commercial acting. And then, transitioned into voiceover because of my background in music, and then also because of my love for video games, and then started working in that genre as well. So, um, that's a little snippet about me,
Leave it to moms to hype you up. I blame my
right?
mom. I blame my mom for like most of the nonsense that I do. Like from going around to conventions to interviewing actors and directors. To I've even done some shadow radio play stuff myself in front of a live audience. So it's been pretty cool. And I blame my mom. I always call her my biggest number one fan,
Yeah.
and I don't think she
Yep.
would argue with that. Yeah. So yeah, leave it to moms, man. They just put all kinds of ideas in your head. It's like, yeah, you could be any like people say you could be anything, but moms, they actually mean that. They're like, no, yeah, no, you can my child I can see my child doing
Yeah.
it. And next thing you
That's so
know,
good.
yeah, next thing you know, you're like, my poor child, because now I'm gonna fill their head with all kinds of wild stuff. So you mentioned some of your younger days of watching Annie. And, that's where your love for acting pretty much came from, straight from the stage play. Have you done any stage acting?
Yeah. Yeah, I did a lot. I unfortunately out here in LA, I just I don't have the time, as much as I'd like to anymore. But before I made the move out here and before I went to go get my master's in acting, I did so much theater, so much musical theater, so many shows I did. I mean, I could list a whole bunch of them, but man, I did so much on stage stuff. That's where I learned to act, actually. I learned it from doing, and the love of, and being involved in, and that's where I found my niche. It was in high school when I went to the music program and then the theater program, and then together it was like, well, hey, musical theater. I've never been in Annie though.
Oh, that was the beginning. I'm surprised you haven't, if someone hasn't picked you up for that one yet.
Well, I mean, I made a joke once that I should do a one-man version of Annie where I play all the roles, including Annie. Like,
That'd be kinda great. You can wear, like, a small red wig.
yeah, and then I have to, like, shave my head to be Daddy Warbucks and,
Oh, man. Oh, you could just use a ball cap,
okay, 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 okay,
that could
yeah.
work. Uh, so when it comes down to, I'm guessing you have been to upstate New York. I
Yeah.
know you out there. I actually used to live in upstate New York myself.
Oh my god.
I lived up there for like 6 years. But every now and again, I would still go down to New York City because I love the energy. And I saw my first Broadway play in New York City. I know it sounds weird saying Broadway play anywhere else, but like Los Angeles, I want to say Oklahoma City, and a couple places, they have those traveling Broadway shows. They still call them Broadway. But going down to New York City, my first Broadway show was The Lion King,
Oh,
and
dude.
I was in my late 20s, so I got a late start on that. I was like, I've seen stage plays, but I've never, like, actually experienced one, and it's a whole different ballpark when you go see a big production,
Mhm.
Broadway shows. Like, Lion King was a thing for me that I was like, "You know what? Maybe there is something more, to plays than what we see," and I just got so interested, and I started looking up stuff like productions and costume designs and everybody who works so hard. The direction alone, you have to direct not only the actors, but your lighting crew. You gotta direct people who are, I forgot what it's called, when you move all the props and the backgrounds around. Being a
All the
director
yeah.
is so difficult. So you've done voice directing, but would you like to do Broadway?
I never thought I haven't it's funny, I haven't thought that much about that specifically since I started doing voice direction, but similarly, and I guess I kind of without the actual, like, live show aspect of it. I have a little bit because I have been a performance director, which is for video games for motion capture and performance capture. So, where we're in the volume and it's just like theater, only there's no costumes. You know, you're in your very lycra suit with with ping pong balls or those little tiny, I forget exactly what they're called, the markers. There we go. And stuff like that. And so it is very similar um in that vein. The only thing is now we have so much more tech attached to it. And also you only have to do it once or twice, and then you can physically move this non-existent camera around and recut your shots in a lot of different ways. So it's like it's very you lose a little bit of magic, I think, that you get to see in the theater where you get to watch a story being told from point A to point B and follow along in that story arc with someone. But, yeah, I think I'd love to do that. I'd love to go back and direct some theater, because it's all part of it. It's all part of the storytelling aspect. Okay, side note entirely, I was just thinking this last night. I was watching this show on Netflix, man, oh, man, I can't remember the title of it. It's new, it came out last year. Um, it's this person wakes up sorry, this person tries to hunt all these serial killers that break out of this hole in the ground, which is, like, top secret. Um but this 3rd episode, which I'm not gonna give a lot away, but there's one thing where I paused it, I looked at my wife, and I said, "You know what would've been really cool? You know what would've been really cool?" Because she was so distraught, this person, that her wolves that she had trained from birth were all killed, and she was on the ground crying. I said, "What would've been really cool in that one moment to see her almost crawl on her hands and knees towards the camera, very feral-like for a second, and then stand up with a personal vendetta to go return." And my wife was like, "Yeah, but that would've been cheesy." I said, "I don't know, could it?" But I was just like, I was like, "Oh man, she's so into this feralness and these wolves. Why not try to incorporate that in her movement?" So anyway, that was just a side tangent. So, you
Yeah,
know,
from the sound of it, that would sound interesting. Like it sounds like she would be Mama Wolf, and of
yeah,
course, Mama Wolf would crawl towards her
don't
pups.
mess with my cubs.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like, I don't know. She says it's cheesy, but that actually sounds like it sounds like it makes sense since she raised those wolves as her own.
Mhm.
Like she would also gain kind of like their feral behavior. Like they just rub off on each other. That would make sense. No, that would be kind of
Okay.
cool.
So you'd watch my cheesy Broadway show then?
I'd experience it, and I'd be like, I get what he's doing, because from what you say, that makes sense to me. Because
Okay.
like our dogs, our cats, our little pets. They're not pets. They're our babies. Like they're our little fluff, furry, feathery, scaly babies. Like
Yeah.
it so that makes sense to me because you get that parental instincts, whether it's human or animal. So I'd watch it. I experience, but like I get what he's doing. Now it depends how it's executed. I think that's
Exactly,
I think that's the biggest
exactly.
thing. If it's executed real cheesy, be like, cool idea, not a good execution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I one of my past interviews was with Jacqueline Pignon. Most recently in video games, she played Morales in the Spider-Man
Oh,
in
gotcha,
the in
gotcha,
the in
gotcha,
the
yeah.
Insomniac Spider-Man game.
And
And
did she voice and also performance, like,
she
direct
did.
or sorry, performance act? Yeah,
Yeah, she did.
that's amazing.
When you were talking about the markers, I was like, "Oh yeah, she talked about those and how it was so much harder to move in those markers than it is in live action because you have all those free movement." With you directing people, and of course they look kind of stiff or uncomfortable walking those things. Like, how do you get a natural movement out of them? Because you already know that, yeah, they're not gonna be able to move as well, if they weren't wearing those markers.
So, a lot of it is make believe. A lot of it, I mean, and so what I try to work often, with actors that I feel like are struggling with the see, because the thing is that it's recording all of your body movements, right? So as you breathe, it records your very minute, just like chest going up, and so I think sometimes people forget to do that, which is one of the groups I work with out here is called the Mocap Vaults. They're great. Richard Dorton and stuff. And he's done. I mean, you Jesus, he said like you probably killed him in a video game and you didn't even know you did. You know what I mean?
Oh, so is
um,
he like the, Bean? I forget the actor's name. He dies in, like, everything he's in, and he's
oh
be
yes,
Sean
yes,
Bean.
yes,
Is he like
yeah.
Sean? Like, he just dies and
It's
everything,
just
he's like, that's just
it's
his
just
thing?
that's it, and like and I started studying under him before I started stepping into the whole motion capture direction stuff too. But it is very much like, for instance, like you don't have a set, you don't have costumes, you don't have anything. Sometimes you'll have a crudely made platform and you're like, "Oh, that's me standing into a spaceship pod," you know? So it's like trying to think of like, okay, so what, in those instances, I then have to ask those questions. So I'll say like, "Okay, what do you think this feels like? What do and I'm like, "Do we have gravity? Do we not have gravity?" One of the things that I worked on, our actress was supposed to be up in space in a space pod for multiple days, and then it crashes on this planet. And so I said, so the first thing that I focused on much with her once it crash landed was, this is the first time you are touching your feet on this alien world. And I know, like, is the gravity different? Does it feel different? I'm not telling her yes it does or no it doesn't, but I am implanting those ideas so that if she wants to play with those ideas, she can. And then it comes across in a performance, that when I'm watching, I go, "Oh, look, she stepped on the ground." I can see her facial expression because they were also recording her face too. She stepped on the ground and she realized, "Oh, I don't have my normal natural like gravity legs right now. I've been up in space where everything's been lighter and stuff. So it's little things like that. I think you have to really use your imagination, which is also why I think it harkens back to theater, because you have to use your imagination on stage, and there's a suspension of disbelief while you're watching a performer act. And so those are the truthfulness in the performance I try to find in those situations. Um, and it definitely is, it's unlike anything else you will do when you get into one of those suits, and like just for instance, if you're talking to a creature that's much bigger than you, but they're standing in front of you and they're the same size as you, naturally you want to look at them, you know? But if they're bigger than you, the eye line has to be tracked. So you literally have to be standing next to them having a conversation, but looking up so that you can record yourself looking up at them because they're big, you know? So It's little things like that, which is the suspension of disbelief to kind of help that acting out.
So, okay, man, trying to get somebody to realize gravity, or teaching them how to walk or speak a certain way. These characters take a life of their own. At least this is what the other actors I've told you. Like you really get yourself into those characters. So you, as the director, you got to keep up with every character and how they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to act. Of course, the actors already know how their character is supposed to. But you, as a director, you got to get them to interact. Like you were saying, like you want to look at them or look at the spot. How do you plan out, I need person A to react this way, but then have person B react in a completely different direction? Because you have to direct both of them pretty much at the same time.
Mhm.
How do you set yourself up? How do you plan that out?
Well, I'll spend a lot of time working with the writer, if I have the opportunity to, not all the time that they're not always there. And I will read through the script and I will have snapshots, especially when it comes to motion capture and performance capture, much like a film and TV director, right? Where I go like, okay, I'm visualizing what this will look like for either the viewer or the player. Often in games, sometimes we are in first person mode. So we are the player experiencing the thing happening in front of them, and then there's a difference between cinematic scenes and then full action like game sequences where you can play. Then there's a cross between them too, so it's like really also knowing as an actor, am I in a cinematic scene or am I in a scene that like I'm walking through and I need to be looped. Like I'm just thinking like, what's coming out soon next week, I think, is Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I didn't have anything to do with it at all, but I would have loved to. But like you have Leon Kennedy in that game, and like as he's walking through the scene, he's got to continue to walk that way so that they can loop his character so that it makes sense that he's walking in a specific way. But if all of a sudden something reacts behind him or something comes out, his character has to react in that way. And then it has to be believable. So I think the idea is that I will come into every scene with ideas that I want to capture and catch. But then we also have like the art directors and the game director, who are other people that are not necessarily like involved in my process. Like they care about the mechanics of the game, as opposed to the actual acting of the game. And so they'll have an idea of what they want. And then sometimes we butt heads, or sometimes we say, okay, like here's this, here's that. We take multiple takes, so that we can say, hey, I love take A. Can we composite? Meaning, can we split take A to take B? We do the lot in voiceover too. If all of a sudden, like the beginning of a phrase is great, but the end of the phrase went "Oop," up, and I was like, can you just give me a downward inflection, like, "Hey, how you doing?" as opposed to "Hey, how you doing?" And then we can go, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "Great, let's keep that." That's the thing that I heard in my head. However, that being said, often I also want to, and as an actor, prefer to let the actors themselves play and experiencing things within the time frame and reference, within the amount of time we have to get stuff, right? But like I'm often open to actors bringing interpretations and thoughts and ideas, and sometimes they'll surprise me entirely. And it wasn't like a thought that I had, but I'm like, oh, actually, now that I see it, it works really nicely. So let's use that. That was a great take. You know what I mean? So I guess what it boils down to, it's a very collaborative effort in these situations.
In video games, there are obviously more than one director. You got the director whose actual job is to direct the art team, program team, sound team. And then there's you as the director who does the motion capture. How often do you and the game director come together and say, "Hey, we know you guys are doing this, but because of these restrictions with the game engine or with the art team or whatever, we want to go this route." How often do you guys actually collaborate as two different directors doing two different things and come to one final conclusion?
I think it's super important to do that, often I heard this phrase, and it's so true in games, is that that you're often put in a box, and but you have to find a way to be as artistically creative within the box you're given. For instance, the game that I'm thinking of, like that she specifically had a box on the ground that was taped, that was the frame of reference for this game. So she could not go outside of either side or front or back of that box. She had to stand in that box at all times. for our cinematic scenes. So we had to stay within the confines of that. She could leave and come in, and then or as she's inning to as she's going to, she would exit as well, and those are fine because those would signify the beginning and the end of the scenes. But most of it was talking directly to camera. Um, so it was challenging to create those moments in within the parameters given because of the restraints in which the game had to go. So I think you know it is always best to communicate and learn as much as you can in advance, because you can have the best written story, be like, okay, cool, this is an amazing cinematic scene. She's going to be, not to use this wolf reference again, but she's going to be hiding in the bushes, and there's going to be this monstrous wolf over there. Again, not the same thing at all, but like, how do we do that from the box perspective? We didn't end up using that scene. It was a scene that was maybe possibly written to enhance the world and stuff like that. But I think then you go, cool, realistically, what's our time frame? How many days do we have to shoot? What's our budget in which to shoot? What can we not shoot and still tell the same story? And try to find ways, or what's working, what's not working. And then it's a collaborative and learning process. So I think often um there's a lot of back and forth. And again, the problem is there's the technical side, and then there's the performance, side, where it's like, that technical side has to be that way, but it kind of impacts the performance. And so you have to find you know, the best, what I want to say, the best equilibrium to get the best result that you can. So often I would say, yeah, there's a lot of back and forth.
With you doing both voice acting and motion capture acting, it has to work two different ways, right? So like just because you direct somebody one way with body movement, it's not the same as delivering a line when they're in a booth. How do you separate yourself from body motion director to voice acting because you said with motion, you're still doing the voice acting deal where they still have to deliver lines a certain way. But with booth recording, it's a tad more freedom. So you get a chance to experiment a little bit more with voice acting. But it has to be two different like styles of directing, right?
It is and it's not. And what I mean by this is when you're doing motion capture and performance capture, you're not always recording voice or face. Sometimes you're just recording the body performance, right? So, and then what'll happen is then they'll take that body performance, and then another actor will create that character with the voice and the facial capture. So in those situations, they have to match what the performance was of the person that did the body in the booth and the face to match what they did. So it's not all the time, but often that happens where they bring in, if they have someone who they want, like, we really want it to be voiced by this person, but that person maybe can't be as physically active, right, to do these things that they need him to do. So they'll have that other person come in. I think the best of all worlds is if you have someone who's doing it and in real time you're capturing all in one go, or you're allowing that person to be the whole character. I think those are probably the best scenarios, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they have a famous actor's voice that they really want to be in this game, and so that's the person they're going to have voice the role. But it's then the role has been performed body motion wise by someone else entirely. Um, I think there's different aspects. There's the physicality for motion capture that you have to continue to make sure that you keep the physicality and going all the time, but that physicality has to translate to your voice in in the booth as well. And so there are things that are like similar but also different, if that makes sense. You don't have to be, I don't want to say as physically fit, but you're not moving, you're not running and doing loops and jumping around and being shot at and like falling over and stuff like that, in the booth. However, you just don't have to sound like you are. So if we have like, one of the games that I direct on Delta Force right now, like if we have a character dying of fire, I try to very much limit how many times we make that dying of fire sound, like napalm has dropped on you, because and like let's do that 1,000 times, you're gonna blow your voice out. You know what I mean? So I'm very cognizant of what we have to do in those moments for that. But you still have to, it still has to be a truthful performance. Like I have to listen to it and go, yeah, that sounds like you're burning. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, moving on. We got it. You know what I mean? So I think I think sometimes, and I don't want to say this because I don't think one is harder than the other. They all have their own things. I think what is really difficult about voice acting is that you have to be a really great imaginator. I don't even know if that's a word.
I
Disney's
mean,
probably
Disney
used that
use
word.
yeah, Disney use it all the
Yeah, okay.
time.
Thank you, dude. You're really there. Like you have to be a really good. You have to be really. I mean, and again, in mocap, you have to as well. But I think the thing is that you have to make it sound like you're jumping off of a ledge and falling, um, even though you're not physically doing it because you can't physically do it because the mic's right here and you have to be right in front of the mic to deliver the line. You can back off the mic, but you still have to go so that it picks you up as opposed to actually just physically doing it and get the same sound. So I think, because if you get off axis like this, then, it's like, I loved that performance, but we got to do it again because
Writing wise, have you written lines for voice acting or have you just written strictly for live action stuff? Because anything I've looked up for you, I did a little bit of my research, folks. Uh, it's all been for live action stuff. So I was just wondering, like, maybe you've done some uncredited writing or something like that.
So as a director and as a voice director, we're often judging or tweaking or fixing lines in video games. Um, Sometimes it's like just the translation doesn't make sense. It'll be like in a different language, either in Chinese or sorry, it'll be in Mandarin or Japanese, and then like the direct translation didn't quite make sense, or like the reference doesn't quite make sense to a US or English mind. So you have to figure out, okay, how can we say this in the same way to get the same feeling across that was made in the original context in which it was in. So often in those cases, I will come in and kind of help to tweak and to adjust. Not full on writing like story content wise. But obviously it's within the realm and the story that we already have been kind of given there. Um, but yeah, you're right. For most writing stuff, I've just kind of written a lot of a lot of things for like on camera and stuff like that. And I only started doing that when I first came out here. It was partly I never considered myself a writer. I came out here as an actor, and like I thought, okay, I got to LA, so now we just act, right? Like like and I kind of sat around for like a week, and I was like, well, no auditions are coming in and no one knows who I am. So I guess, what are we gonna do? Um, I kind of base what is it? I kind of base my year start around Valentine's Day. I felt like Valentine's Day I came out here was like January to like February 14th. And then it was like, okay, after Valentine's Day was when I really started to kind of like hit the ground to go like, I need to make things happen for myself. So that's when I started writing and then acting and stuff like that. But yeah, for video games specifically, I don't think we like it's kind of an unwritten rule, like where we are kind of tweaking and working and rewriting lines, but we never really get line credit, if that makes sense.
You worked on Yakuza, and I know full well that game is chock full of wild references and deliveries and lines, stuff that even in English would make you just like that makes no sense, but in the realm of Yakuza, it does. So, what was it like working on a legendary series like Yakuza, where you get a script and you're like, I'm sorry, he has to fight a fat guy in a brothel in his underwear. Okay, yeah, I guess we're doing that. So, like, what was it like working on that series?
um Crazy, but crazy in a good way. I think everything comes with its own caveats, right? My goal when I work on something is to always make sure I do it the most justice that it deserves in the best way to hopefully service the fans. And specifically for that game, like, you're right. There is just so many outlandish things that happen, and then after they beat each other up, they go and they sing karaoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's so ridiculous, but I think that's what people love about it is that it's so ridiculous, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
never it takes itself serious, but never takes itself serious at the same time. And I think that's what's so great about those games. So working on that was especially Zero being so fan favorite, and we tried so hard to stick to the original source material and the script, and things are being rewritten all the time, because we're trying to match the mouth flap that was already recorded. So like we have the writers in there, and me and even the actors will sit in and be like, okay, that's not fitting. Like we'll be like, we'll talk about syllables because it's like it's like, okay, we have two additional syllables that in Japanese, or often in Japanese the mouth ends on an O a lot of the time, but a lot of in English the mouth will close to signify the end of the sentence, right? And so we're trying to figure out how to match the lip flaps and stuff like that. So often we were just trying to, so constant like, okay, that line's but again, what I'll say is though, they did their homework. Those guys are so good. They're so good at doing what they do that we didn't have to do that all the time. But but we did try very hard to tweak and still keep the general idea of the script while also still, trying to match it to make sense that it was dubbed over in English because it was originally performed in Japanese. So um, but again, I think it comes down to just the truthfulness of the performance. Is it a believable, truthful performance that when someone watches it, they're going to feel like they're not wasting their time? You know, um, so yeah, those games are crazy. I love them.
Yeah. Would you love to do more Yakuza games?
Oh my god, yeah, yeah, yeah. I had the pleasure of doing all the karaoke on Zero, and then also Pirate Yakuza. What was really cool about that is I got the new songs sent to me, and so I was like one of the first ones to hear the songs ever, before, and then so I worked very hard at singing the back scratching vocals so that we could teach the actors them. So like so I was so that was quite, because I was just basically given the English lyrics, and then I was listening to the Japanese performance and going, okay, cool, how do these fit? Okay, here we go, so
How do you direct singing? That that would get to me because it's like, okay, you have to match. Like you say, you have to match the mouth movement. How in the world do you direct something as fast paced and energetic, and sometimes even slow as Yakuza's karaoke?
I think it comes down to one, um, instilling confidence in the actor. Um, Often voice actors will come in and that's their job, to voice act. Their job is not to sing often, but they can do that. And sometimes they can't do that. And sometimes they think they can do that and they can't. And sometimes they can and they don't think they can. Right. So it's just finding out the level of where they're at and then trying to uplift them, much like I said at the beginning, trying to uplift them to make them feel confident, happy, and um and we get a good performance. Like I have never had a singing session where I've left thinking, "Oh my god, what are we going to do?" Um, you know, and I hope the same happens with everybody that I work with in those situations. And I think it's a testament to the fact that I come to this having a degree in music education and concentration in voice. So I was a trained classical singer, where sometimes people try to direct songs, and I've been out here before, and they go, "Oh, you sing, just sing." Uh, okay, that's not how it works. You can't just tell someone to sing. You know what I mean? You have to
Yeah.
know, like, can they match pitch? Can they hear it? Does the rhythm make sense? Do those lyrics, where do they breathe so they can actually get to the end of that phrase, you know? Um, Luckily, we weren't so much focused on lip flap so much for the singing portion of those. It was more like as long as it sounded like it was hitting the timing of the Japanese to the English, then we were going to be good on those. So that was at least one of the things that was not going against us. But it is one of those things is that I've seen amazing voice actors come in, and the minute they're told they can sing, they have to sing, they just will crumble. Because they're just like it's a part of them. Like if you're not a good singer, then it's something to do with like, or if you think you're not a good singer, then it's like I can't fix that. It's me. But if you're not a good guitar player, it's like, well, it's the guitar, and I can keep working on the guitar and I can set the guitar away. But a singer, you walk with that voice inside, like you can't get away from it. You know what I mean? So it's just about instilling confidence, um, and and kind of meeting them where they are and then going, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We don't have a lot of time though to do songs like like luckily they give us time, but there's not a whole lot of time to get a song done. So like we have to do like they have to do some prep in advance and kind of hear and listen and stuff like that as well. And I have to like know the song backwards forwards, sing it in my sleep.
Now you say that some of them think they can't, and you're like, "Oh, you can actually sing." How do you discover that? Like, as a director, like, "Oh, this person, I know you say you can't, but you can." How do you get them to the part to where they're like, "Well, I trust this guy. Let me do, like, one little belt and see how that goes and let them know that I can't sing." You're like, "No, you can," and then you can get them to that point to where they are confident to actually sing.
It's a great question, and I've actually never been asked this before. So I specifically, well, kind of how I started the beginning of this. I want them to know, and I want all actors to know that I'm on their side. Like, and I do my best to. I don't want to say shield them, but there's a lot that happens in the production side where like maybe they don't, like they look at actors as an additional tool to the game that they're working on or something like. Not everybody, but some silicone tech heads or the people that are not necessarily into the arts don't quite understand that it's not like, oh, zeros and ones. There's feeling behind it and stuff, additional things to it. And that's not, like I said, that's not everyone. I'm generalizing, but I don't mean to be. Um, I will often in those scenarios when I know that we have a session, I will make it a closed session between just like the first 10 minutes or first 15 with me and just the actor. Um, I will not let anybody else in. It's like a closed set. It's like for like like their love scenes. It's like whoever needs to be here needs to be here right now. And all because it's a very intimate thing to sing. And so it's between me and the other actor. And I will have my piano. I bring it. I don't have it out normally. I have it right here, but I have my piano, and I'll bring it and I'll set it up and we'll do some vocalises or vocal warm ups. That tells me a lot because I can start to play and I can go, oh, as a voice actor, luckily you can match pitch. What I mean by that is like, like sometimes you have to voice match someone or, it's like, oh, they set it up there. Can you say it up there? I'm saying it up there. There we go. Great. You know what I mean? So it's like so they can kind of hear where the pitch needs to be, or where like the where they need to pitch their voice. So that's good at least. Not everyone can, but most can. And then we'll start with some simple vocal warm-ups. And talk to them about their insecurities and stuff like that. Luckily, I've had the chance of reworking with some actors, so I kind of know now, like where they are. And I think it's just building that confidence to know that I'm there for them and that like it can be a super crazy thing. But like, no one's gonna feel berated or sad, or if they do, they can come and talk to me and I will make sure that that gets dealt with. So it's a very safe environment to make sure everybody's feeling good.
Now for the reversal, for the person who think that they can sing but can't, how do you let them know? How do you let them down? It's like, "Hey, man, that's I'm sorry, that's not it."
Well, let's put it this way. Luckily, I haven't had a whole lot of those.
Okay.
So I haven't had a whole lot of those. And I would say for the most part, they'll I think what it comes down to when it comes to singing is it's just the confidence. If they're I would rather have someone who's very confident in singing loud so I can hear that the pitch is wrong so I can tweak it and try to fix it, work with them versus someone who's very pitch accurate but very meek and timid. And then it's not really projected well and it's kind of like this and I can't really tell where it is and it's hard to get them to go there. It's always easier to go bigger and pull back than the opposite. Um in those instances, um I'm pretty sure the actors knew um, that they were trying their best, and I think we all decided that they were trying their best, but we just realized, okay, um, they just singing is not something for them. They're not great at doing it, maybe, and then we might reach out and get someone to like much like voice matching, bring someone else in who sings and just basically sings the song in their kind of voice. That's the thing that can happen, much like the musical like Singing in the Rain. They had someone else like dub over that, specifically as part of like the story. It's been a long time since I watched that one, but so I think those would be the worst case scenarios. Or sometimes, sometimes um probably don't say anything at all. You know, if it depends on to be like the caliber of person whose ego would be really affected by it, then you just go like, okay, I guess it is what it is. You know, often I'm not involved in the casting process, so I don't get to add my 2 cents into like, like, go like,
Okay.
"Hey, maybe we should use this person because like, that's it, so I'm not necessarily always involved in that. So
Since you are a singer and actor, training yourself to do one and the other, two completely different things, you can actually forget how to sing, which I still find to be very crazy. How do you keep yourself at this balance level to where you can continue doing voice acting, but not forgetting how to sing and keep your singing voice at an optimal level without losing yourself as a voice actor?
I think it comes down to, protecting yourself, knowing your limits, and knowing when to say that you've been spent or you're tired. Hopefully also, much like I talked about, like burning in fire, you're not going to have a whole session where you're burning in fire and then you have to go do 2 hours of singing. You know, that's not going to be a good session for you. Hopefully and sometimes it's not even it's like, "Oh, I'm doing 1 session here in this game, and then I have to drive to another studio through traffic, pretend to eat something quick, and then go in and then now to do something else." You know what I mean? So there's that extra, like, level of, like, stuff that's not even happening at the studio, and then "Oh, they need me to do all these monster voices today. Shit. Okay, I wasn't you know what I mean? So I think it's knowing when to say, "Hey, I have another session later. Can we reschedule this? Can we do something?" I didn't, if something was sprung upon someone, I think it's totally fine. What I wish sometimes actors would do in situations is be a little bit more vocal, not in a way that's like, being like, "Hey, I know better than you," but just saying like, "Hey, I know my voice better than you do," because they do. Everybody knows their voice better. Like and being upfront about things. Hey, I don't know if this is going to work today. I know we have a couple of those sessions. Can we move this to then? Or, is it possible that we can reschedule this? And I think, production and people get sick too. So sometimes it's dealing with sickness and it's like, what can we get done? What passes as you don't sound sick to, oh no, you definitely don't sound like the same character. you know? So I think that's kind of where you have to really just be attuned to your own self. Um, and I think some of it carries over though. I think good diaphragmatic support as a voice singer and as a voice actor, making sure that you take enough breath and support yourself from your diaphragm down here to really, getting sleep, staying hydrated. I think the interesting thing is figuring out how to sing in character. That's an interesting one. Um, and I haven't really had to direct a lot of people to sing in character. Often they're singing like their characters might be their same, mostly similar speaking voice, but there's certain mannerisms and stuff too. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know if I went off on a tangent
No,
there.
no, no, no. That's, I mean, I want to hear your experience. So, like, those are kind of things like I want to hear a true professional, someone who does both. Because I've mostly talked to voice actors. They're all they don't. I don't think any of them sing. I haven't talked to any of them about singing because I've always been voice acting. And they're always like, drink water. Don't stress your voice out. You're gonna scream. Don't do it for like an hour long screaming set. Take breaks. So they hear. So nobody ever talks about like the diaphragm, like breathe. Like they talk about breathing, but they never talk about how you have to like get the air in there and stay in character. So what do you mean by singing in character? Because I actually like Has Been Hotel. I'm going to use that as an example. I like Has Been Hotel. I like the music in there. Season two wasn't the music wasn't bad, but there were a couple of songs in there where it went from you can tell it's the voice actor doing their act, and then when they start to sing, completely different tone and pitch, and it was jarring. It's like, wow, that is
Mm.
a whiplash. So when you say sing in character, what exactly do you mean by that? Like, how's that? What's the difference?
So, it's something I've been thinking about doing and maybe even going down the path to kind of figure this out. Like for instance, I'm thinking like maybe a little bit more anime related too, or something specifically like Adventure Time. Like that show, like they'll have a lot of like just random songs where all of a sudden they have a character singing and like they're singing their song. Um, Often people will pitch their voice in a specific way to sound like a specific character. So, they're gonna pitch it here. So now everything has to be up here. So now if we have to sing, all of a sudden that's now putting different, on like the larynx up here. So now we have to sing like this. Right. So it's like it's just kind of trying to figure out how to keep that tone and that character and sing a song that may be completely opposite of that character, or because I think sometimes the people who are writing the music are not necessarily thinking the character should sing this. Sometimes, like again, it's another aspect of, the composer might not know the actor, or might be written in the wrong key, you know. I think it's a very specific thing because I think often, and I'm not familiar with the show that you said Has Been Hotel. What does that
Hazbin
mean?
Hotel. It's,
Has Been
uh,
Hotel.
it's on Amazon Prime. It's like an adult
Okay.
animated, musical,
Oh man, I gotta check this out now. Has
and
Been Hotel.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I like some of the music. Keith David is actually in that, show, and he has a couple of
Oh yeah,
songs.
yeah.
Like, hearing Keith David sing, s it was wild to me. I was like, "Oh, okay, Keith David can just do it all. That's cool." And you can tell it's Keith David, like, while he sings, just like with, Princess and the Frog. When he had his villain song. It just seems like Keith David. But then you hear like some of the other actors, and they're great actors. They fit their characters well. But like I said, in season two, there are some songs with characters that had a completely different like pitch and tone, where it was jarring, and I was like, I don't know if that's the same voice that was speaking before. Like, it just sounds, it sounded strange. So hearing you say like, "Oh yeah, you have to sing in character," I never actually thought about. Do you actually think about the way these characters talk and translate to how they sing? Because you have characters with high pitched voices,
Hmm.
and they want to do these deep songs. And of course, with high pitched voices, you you kind of have like a whisper kind of thing for their deep song. And when you have deep characters who want to do more energetic songs, their voice is already deep, so they gotta like huff them or be a little louder and huff themselves up.
Yeah.
And I never really thought of it that way of singing in character, and it's so strange to think about that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can boil down to, one, a song that's appropriate for that character to sing, and what in terms of like how like maybe closer to their speaking range. But again, sometimes you have a song, like you said, an upbeat song, and you have a lower speaking person. And so by proxy, you tend to think upbeat, faster means higher. Doesn't always mean that, but it, can. And the more energized you are, tends to bring your pitch up a little bit. So if you're like, I'm going to speak down here, but now I have to speak really fast, So you have to, I think that there's just certain aspects that you have to deal with, I think that you would that are additional to singing. I think first and foremost with singing, it's making a good tone, and making sure that you are singing on your vowels and not your consonants, things like that, and making sure that you're again breathing. I talk a lot about my breath work and stuff like that because my background in music education and and singing. I think that also helps with these scenarios, but you have to really focus on those things first, and then you add in the element of acting because you have to still keep it a character. So I think the character you can affluence the voice to match a character, or really it comes down to again the truthfulness in the acting in which the character is doing to sing. But you have to get the singing out of the way so that you can focus on the acting portion, and then forget it all so that you can do it and make it feel natural.
Right. Right. And since obviously it's gonna be two different sessions, you do a serious scene and then you get to singing. But because you just did a serious scene and the song is supposed to be, "Oh, I have to uplift this character," and that has to be upbeat. Um, how do you Well, you say you haven't done any musical directing yet, but how would you handle one day? Okay, you're gonna be super serious about this scene. It's a super serious scene, and then they come back the next day. Hey, remember that super serious scene? Well, this one is an upbeat song to complement that scene to try to bring this character up. How do you direct somebody? Be like, hey, don't be super serious today. I need you to be upbeat and cheery with this song. Be like, well, I'm still in character.
I think the biggest thing is context, um, meaning understanding the parameters in which the scene needs, again, and I go back to being truthful to make it that way. And context is everything. Context about, like, going back to, like, standing on the ground and, how does this gravity feel? Like, knowing that her space pod has crashed on a planet that she's never been on. How does that feel? We now know there's context there for us to then infer how we should or should not feel in those certain things. And then how would you feel? How might you feel? But then how does this character feel? Because, like, you might feel, hey, I'm really hungry right now because it's almost like, noon, as opposed to, like, you know what I mean? Like, as opposed to, like, my character is like, man, and so it's those things. And I think if you can approach that thing going, okay, so the super serious scene, like, maybe you just like, are you familiar with Final Fantasy 7?
Yes.
Okay.
The
So
the
this
original, I'm familiar with it.
okay, yeah, the original,
I
the
have
original.
yeah, I haven't played the remake yet, but, the original
It's okay.
I'm
I haven't either. I haven't either. I have it. I'm slowly waiting for all 3 so that I can play them
ah,
all at the same time.
right, yeah.
It's so bad. But I know, like, my backlog of games is so stupid. I'm never gonna, like, I'm like, "Man, I gotta," you know? But, like, for instance, like, spoiler alert, by the way, this is a spoiler alert if anybody who hasn't played, and I don't even know I don't know how far they get in the second one right now, but you might wanna just bleep this out or say, "Move to this next portion." When Sephiroth kills Aerith, right? Like, there's a reason we don't have a Sephiroth singing scene right afterwards. Like,
Right, yeah.
you know you know what I mean? Because, like, it would just completely take away from that scene. So, what I'm trying to say is that, like, I hope that the scene has a purpose there for that character in that specific moment. And luckily, like you said, they go away and maybe come back so a little bit refreshed. But who knows? Maybe they just voiced 2 other characters and we have to swing back to this character today. And so it's about, like, taking a break, cleaning it, like, shaking your face off and looking at an Excel sheet for, like, 3 hours, because that's what video games basically are, is staring at an Excel sheet for so long. Very rarely do we ever get to see assets or what the actual characters look like, unless, of course, we're doing, like, the cutscenes and stuff. Then we get to see those things, but, like, for the most part, we don't. So it's just going, okay, great. Here's what we need to do. We need to reset, and here's where your character goes now. And how do you think your character gets there? I'm thinking maybe it's this one note in the song, ding, which brings them back to a moment in their life, and then they're going to upbeat, and all of a sudden it's going to change so that we can understand this. So it's making the right construct for them to make it how it works for them. Even if my thought is not the right one, as long as it works for them and their performance is one that everyone goes, "Hey, I like that performance. I think we all did our job." So that's where I would say in those scenarios, I would try to do. You know. Or the other thing is sometimes that character is there as a joke. So, like, the scene's really serious, but that character's not in the scene. That character's standing next to everybody who then breaks into song, and then everybody goes, "What the hell?" And then they go back to the scene. So sometimes that happens too.
Has Been Hotel in season 1, they actually made that joke where a character just versus the song, they're like, "I know you didn't do that." So yeah,
Yeah.
they're definitely self-aware at least, like, "Yeah, we know." Since we're on the topic of singing and music, for somebody who does wanna sing or wants to learn how to sing, with your background, what would be like your tips to get started? Like, yeah, you think you could sing, but let's get you to that point. Uh, how? I'm in my room. Everybody can, of course, sing with confidence in their room. How do I prepare myself to sing, or at least attempt to sing in front of an agent or a director? Heck,
Yeah.
heck, my voice director. When I was like, oh yeah, I can sing, and then just completely be off key. How do I get to that point? How do I train myself to get that confidence to sing in front of others?
So I think there's, like, I think it's twofold. One, making sure that you are ready, and maybe you don't know that you're ready. right? So like like it's like I want to sing. I think I'm ready. I think I can do this. People have told me I'm a good singer. So what you need to do is you need to find an unbiased third party, right? Not your best friend, not your mom, right? Who's always gonna say, My angel can't do anything wrong. Of course you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and maybe you have a mom that's super, straightforward with you, and she's like, like, but I think you have to find someone who's an unbiased third party, whether it be like a teacher or someone, and then listen to them and say, "Hey, what do you think about my voice?" First. Um I would say stay away because I've started looking at stuff like Reddit has like a singing Reddit. Like that's often like if you're gonna put yourself out there on that stuff, you're opening yourself to a world of just like bullshit and then sometimes some really good stuff. But like, but people on Reddit, there's the anonymity thing where they can just be dicks. So like, like
Yeah.
just I would say that is an avenue that you can do, but like just know that people are gonna rip you apart, even if you're great. So find an unbiased person that you can who's got no bias in terms of how you feel and say be honest with me, like do you think but also you have to be open to that honesty, right? Like if someone says I don't really think you're a good singer, like oh well fine, I'm gonna find someone else, you know what I mean, that means you're not open to it. So those are the couple of things to start with. Now the next thing is then to start to work on your stuff. So if you want to do ear training, like if you have a piano or you can download a free piano app on like your iPhone or your any type of device you have, play a note and sing. Mm, ah, ah, ah. Go to YouTube, find things to work on and listen to. You know, and then it comes down to just getting the confidence to do it. You know, I think and I know sometimes people don't have money, but if money's involved, it's much like if I have a gym membership, I will be more apt to go to the gym than if I don't because I'm paying money. So now I gotta go. So I think if you can find a teacher who is willing to kind of like train and work with you, I think then that's going to be something. Again, I'm not saying you have to spend the money, but if you can swing it, there's a lot of struggling artists out there that, like if you're near a music school, like if you happen to like look into like when I say a music school, like maybe a music college, sometimes there's younger students who are going to study to be an educator. Maybe they want to start teaching people on the side, so maybe you can get it at a lower rate. Or if there's music schools, I know like when I moved out to Los Angeles, there wasn't like music in schools like I had in New York. That's just not a thing. It was you went to music outside of school. And so there was all these other tiny music schools. So, you can kind of try that. I think it just builds your confidence to slowly take one step at a time. If you realize that you have performance fright, then maybe like try to say like, "Hey, what happens if I get in front of an audience and like read something? Go to a poetry slam?" You know what I mean? Like maybe take an improv class, something that kind of helps you to kind of break out of your, people are staring at me now. Record yourself and watch it back. You have to be critical of yourself. Sometimes that's difficult. And I'm gonna throw out something in case people ever want to come and join. Every other Saturday, myself and two other people that I've known for a very long time on Twitch, we do a live singing show where we invite singers to come on, and it's called SOS. So it's on Saturdays. Starts at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then you can go across that way. We have someone who's on the East Coast, someone who's in the UK. Between the three of us, Rach GH and Princess Pashley and myself, my Twitch handle is Phantom Havoc. But between the three of us, we have about like 30 to 40 years of music, singing, and teaching. So we offer like time slots for you to sign up for totally free to come on and and to get some feedback and stuff like that. So it's something that we just enjoy doing and kind of helping to instill the love of singing and stuff like that. So that's another option too. Again, you have to be ready for that. You have to feel like, I can tell you right now, the way we do it is we don't rip anybody apart. That's not our MO. It's to listen, give feedback. Here's what we think you should do. We also ask that don't come on just to show off. It's like come on if you're like, hey, I'm having trouble like singing this run in this song. Can you help me work on it? You know what I mean? So we often sing too, and I sing, and sometimes I'll be like I sang like this past weekend, I sang like a Bruno Mars song. I hadn't warmed up, I was like, "I can't hit those notes today." Like, I was like, "Well, guys, sorry." Like, you know? So, that's a long explanation, but that's the steps I would kinda take.
Of course, everybody, well, people who actually sing, everybody think they can sing. But of course, there are different kinds of singers. Some people can do acapellas. Some people can do just downright Broadway play type songs. People do country. Some people can do R&B. They all have different uh, pitches and tones.
Mhm.
How how did you? Well, I don't know which styles of music you do personally. But how do you learn to change your tone to fit different genres of, because
Mm.
Broadway musicals way different than if you were to do like just a regular like a Bruno Mars. Like yeah, they're both high energy, but a pop song is vastly different from a Broadway.
You exactly what you said, you have to educate yourself on what goes into those things. I'm a, proponent of learning classically first. Often what that'll do is what I mean by that is like in like Italian or French or German, like, like go back and kind of find a classically trained teacher. I was trained classically for music, but I also think that to my detriment is that I never really learned how to sing pop styles. So I would say that I'm great for musical theater, great as a musical theater teacher, and good for classically trained stuff because that's how I was trained. But like, I wouldn't say, "Hey, let me be your coach in pop music." Like, I can, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain sounds that I know how to figure out how for you to get, But I'd say find someone who does the vocal styles that you want to learn and study from them because they have the best knowledge in those certain areas. Because also singing in certain genres, they all take, like you said, they all take specific requirements. Like some of them you're a little bit more relaxed, some of them you have to be a little bit more articulate to make sure that you can actually say the words that you're saying. You have to have good breath support. Sometimes the breath support doesn't matter as much, but it's still important, you know pitch, or like glissandos or runs, or schmearing or blues and jazz, like scatting. Like all those things have all different types of things. They're all great, and I would say you have to find individual teachers. I think maybe YouTube or TikTok is probably good, but again, don't go down the path of listening to these people thinking that the stuff you're seeing, everybody puts out their best work. You never see people like necessarily, "Hey, here's me trying to do this." Sometimes you do, but, you know, it's auto-tuned, it's pitch corrected, like, I think don't compare yourself to the stuff you see because that stuff is over doctored. And even when we see like live performers, they get up on stage to sing. Sometimes they're lip syncing, they're singing to their songs that were recorded, and there's multiple reasons why. Like they have multiple performances over a sing. How do you sing for 4 hours a night and then sleep on a plane to fly to the next place and sing again for 4 hours? You know what I mean? So it's like you know so it's kind of start your journey by like Googling and kind of figuring it out. But that's what I would say the best way to do because you're right. There are so many different genres of singing styles, and finding someone you gel with is someone that you can learn from.
Now, me personally, I don't. I'm one of those people who I can't stand the sound of my voice being played back to me. Even if I could sing, I can only imagine trying to sing and then listening back to my singing. How does one get over the phobia of their own voice, especially for singers? Because they have to hear their playback to understand what they're doing wrong. So, how do you learn to live with your voice as a singer?
I was like you. I hated the sound of my own voice. A really interesting thing that you can do really quickly, not so much in right now because we both have headphones on, but if you take your headphones off, and you put your hands in front of your ears like this, you actually, because also we hear our voices differently than everybody else does because we hear it coming out like this and it travels up inside as well to our ears. So, like, you could do this. It actually does hear your voice. Your voice will sound differently to you if you block the front of your ears off. I've done it. It's very strange. It's still not as accurate as it is if you listen back though. If you listen back to a recording, you go, "Wow, that's how I actually sound." obviously I have a very high pitched voice. And so like, when I was younger growing up, I would answer the phone and, back when people had house phones, you know, and they'd be like, "Oh, is your mother like, they would think I was my mom, and I was like, "No, I'm her son." And I'd be like, "How dare you?" You know what I mean? Like, so, and so I think what it is that you just constantly do it. You just listen to it over and over and over and over and over and over again until basically you break through that thing of just, okay, this is how I sound. I'm listening like when I audition for auditions, and voiceover records, I listen to myself constantly. I have to because I play it, I record it, I go back, then I have to edit it, trim it down, and I have to listen to it, and I have to go like, okay, I did that take this way, this take this way. Which one sounds best to me? I'm gonna give them this one. I think that one sounds the best. So you just have to push through it, even if it feels like chalk on nails on a chalkboard. You know, and it's also okay. It's also okay if you're like, I just hate this so much that maybe this isn't for me. you know,
Right.
it's also okay to like to not do it.
Yeah. Let's go back to voice acting. How do you break yourself from saying, okay, singing is one thing, but I'm trying to do these voices for another character. How do you break yourself from being like, nah, that's not good. I gotta redo that. Or oh no, this one little piece here doesn't sound right. Let me go back and do it. And that can ruin your confidence. It could stop you from doing any more auditions. So for singing, okay, listen to yourself over and over again. People who love to sing, they're gonna sing. But voice acting, I like to talk. Obviously, I do these things. I talk to people. I like to talk. I hate to say it, but I really do. But listening to myself talk, like when I have to edit this video, I'm like, gosh, but this guy just shut up and let Mark talk. Oh my goodness, stop, dude. How do you break yourself as a voice actor, giving up from just being sick of your own voice? 'Cause I've done it before. I've tried to audition for voice actings, and it got to the point where I was like, no wonder I'm not getting gigs. My voice does not fit anything. Even when I try a different voice, it just does not fit. So that bit of confidence can be quite harm, or that self-deprecation could be the thing
Mhm.
that stop you as a voice actor. So for you who has made it, but you still do a ton of auditions, how did you break yourself from being like, okay, that's your voice, deal with it, send it out, hopefully somebody will like it?
Almost exactly what you just said. If you're at a place where you're getting a lot of auditions, sometimes you just don't have the time to care. And that's sometimes a good thing. Now, if you're not there, and let me explain that for a second. So, like, if all of a sudden, like, auditions, at least the way that they work here for voice acting in LA is like we'll get like an email from our agents around maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. Now, if you're at a gig, you're driving when you finish at 6, which is when normally studios get done, you're then stuck in traffic, depending on where you're driving from if you were in person. So by the time you get home, now you're looking at maybe 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock. Then you got to make dinner because you probably didn't eat at the studio. And all of a sudden, now you got to look at the stuff that you might be doing tomorrow. Then you got to look at the auditions you have. And you're like, shit, I have 5 auditions. God. And each of them thinks that they are the best audition in the world. And of course they are because they care because they are solely focused on one of those auditions, right? Those people that send it out. Maybe not all the time, but so sometimes they'll give you a lot of backstory that you do not need for a character. They'll be like, this world has 5 kings. These kings hate each other. You're like, okay, great, but how does that affect me? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and they're like, I'm like, just tell me the age. Okay, 13 male. Okay, great. Cool. Okay, now I kind of know where I can place the voice. You know what I mean? So it's things like that. So then you have to fall back on your acting ability and go, cool, I need to do these things. Now, if you're not at that point and you don't like because like you can only spend so much bandwidth on those, you finally get to a point you're like, okay, you could spend an hour doing each of those auditions, but then that's 5 additional hours at night before you go to bed to wake up and then do it all again at 9 in the morning, like so if you have a lot of auditions, that's great. If you don't have a lot of auditions, I would say give yourself a timer. Say, I'm not going to spend more than 30 minutes on this audition. Put a timer set and then go through it. You sit in to record and do it. And walk away. Walk away and then come back and listen to it again and go, do I like what I did? Do I think what I did was a good job? Do I hate it? And if you hate it, then give yourself another 30 minutes, right? But don't, because like I know when I first started auditioning, I was like sometimes spending an hour and a half on an audition and I was like questioning everything. And this is the thing that really sucks now is that people are not going into studios to get feedback from their auditions. There's no live auditions for voiceover. It's all self-record, send in, maybe you'll hear something, maybe you don't. Maybe they'll listen to it, maybe they won't. I mean, half the time I'm not even sure if every audition I send in for my agents gets sent off, you know what I mean? Because they have so many people. And so I'm like, I don't know, maybe this didn't make it through my agents to be sent off to casting. You just never know. So you get to a certain point, you go, okay, cool. Well, moving on. You do it and you forget it. For instance, the day that I auditioned for the movie Little, I had 3 other auditions that day, and I had 2 auditions in person, so I was driving all around Los Angeles, and I got a flat in my tire, okay? So I had to pull over to this random garage and say, "Hey, can you guys plug this? I have to get to my other audition." By the time I got home, I was like, "I have to do another self-tape." Oh my god. I was like, it was just one line that I had to do. I did not care. I was just I got in front of it, had my wife read across through me, and I said the line. I was like, "Great, okay." And now I have to edit it. So then you have to sit down, upload it from your thing, do a whole edit, send it in, and that was it. And I forgot that I even did that audition. And this is what you'll hear from people. They're like, "Man, I spent all this time on this audition, didn't hear shit, didn't get it." And I was like, "Here's the one where I didn't care about it. I didn't literally even remember it." And I was like, "You booked a movie." I was like, "What?" Like, with Issa Rae. What? Marcy Martin. What? Regina Hall. I was like, huh? Oh, and I had to go back through because I didn't even remember auditioning for it. And that's the crazy thing. And you know, and it was just because I was so inundated with life that I just didn't have time to care. Now, that's not to say that's the best thing you should do. You should obviously care about the auditions you have, and you should be still putting the effort and the time in which you can in those moments into it. But sometimes you just have to like set it and forget it, you know, like I forget what that one was, but it's like I feel like it was like Mike Tyson was trying to sell like a roaster machine and set it and forget it. Like
What?
I don't know. It was like a the toaster oven or something. It was like you could just like it was like their slogan was like set it and forget it. Oh, you're clearly dating myself now, Michael. So I think what it is that again, you just start to listen to it, you just start to do it, and then eventually you just get past that point. But again, don't let your head get in your way, you know, because like I think that's the hardest thing is that you have those self-deprecating little voices that say, "This is shit, this is shit, this is shit." You know what? Someone else has ones that say, "This is the best thing ever." They're gonna submit it and they might get it. So you might as well just submit it and continue to work and continue to learn from each audition you do, because you just never know. Because I could have maybe I wouldn't have even sent in that little tape because I thought it was so bad. I would say just keep pushing forward one step at a time.
We have our tips for voice acting and for singing. Some people want to do what you do and direct. How in the world does one even get started in such a thing? Like, yeah, you could be like, oh, just start a YouTube channel and get some friends together and just direct some stuff. Well, yeah, sure, but not everything goes viral. How exactly do I get myself out there as somebody who actually wants to direct? How do I get that assistant chair? How do I get that internship? Like, how do I get my director foot through the door? For voice actors, it's not easy because there's a bunch of people doing it. But now there are stuff like you said, like Reddit, and there's Discord groups, and there's casting call. There's entire websites for people who write and animate and direct and do all this stuff where voice actors can go. It's not really a website like that for directors. Not somebody like, oh,
Yeah.
we're an animation team looking for a director. I'm a music artist looking for a director. So it's a lot harder for somebody who wants to direct.
I have a bet that most directors and most of the ones that I know and the ones that I've worked with, if they that's the same question, they're gonna say they never signed up to do it. Eh, it just kind of happened, you know? There is no direct path to directing for voiceover. You cannot go to school for it. That to my knowledge, there's no like, hey, I'm gonna go learn how to direct voiceover. my path's a little weird in the fact that, like, I started directing voiceover before I was actually voiceover acting. Um, and so, like, most people will voiceover act for a while and then go, "Hey, I love doing that, but also I can do this too because I've done it enough now where I kinda understand how this works," you know? For me, you know, case in point, I just really kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time. I always said yes to an opportunity. If an opportunity arose, like, it's like, hey, are you interested in doing this? And it wasn't the best at the time, the best pay or whatever. And I was just like, well, sure, yeah. Like, you know, COVID had kind of happened. I wasn't quite happy in the teaching job that I was doing. And, as on top of just to kind of like, acting obviously wasn't happening during COVID. So it was kind of like I'd started basically taking every single voiceover class that I possibly could during COVID, sitting in front of the camera, learning, because I was like, this is the one thing I didn't focus on. So I was like learning that. So I was learning those steps, but it just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And someone said, well, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, nothing. And they said, great. Well, we're going to spin you up to kind of learn this whole world. And I was just in the right place at the right time and said yes. So, sometimes that happens. Not everybody is fortunate enough to be there, but it is one of those things where you, I think, need to look for an internship. They do exist. LinkedIn is probably your best friend for those specific things. LinkedIn is a super underutilized place for actors and voiceover actors. And also because all the studios that are doing video games and anime and dubbing and stuff like that, they all have a LinkedIn profile. And so, they all show who's working there. And you can probably get contact information from them and you can probably go to their things. And I see people looking for internships. So most of the time, unfortunately, internships don't really pay super, super well, but they do give you the opportunity to go to the studios. They do give you the opportunity, if you get one, to learn to be there. You might hate it, you know? Like, it like I made a comment earlier, it's a lot of staring at Excel sheets. Like, it's literally like a Google sheet or an Excel. That's like what video games is. And then half the time trying to not pull your hair out most of the time. Eating your fingernails, which is a bad thing that I do just because I look at the time. It's like the worst thing for me is the time. The time is the hardest thing. It's like, how much time do we have to get through this? Oh my God, we don't have enough time. Oh my God, we have to, so it's like it's a constant thing like that. Um, but I would say, yeah, it's, going to events like a Comic-Con, an LA Comic-Con, it used to be called Kamikaze, but I think now it's just LA Comic-Con. GDC, which I'm planning on now going to in 2 weeks and walking around and finding, like, it's not cheap to go to GDC, but if you're up in San Francisco and you can swing it and you can go in, you can go meet indie devs. And you can just, like, they have like speed run things where you can sit down and cross from people and meet them and see what they're working on. And, maybe all of a sudden you'll get a job in gaming as well. And then, like, uh if you get a job in gaming, all of a sudden that job then turns into you voice directing the games in that specific studio. I am freelance, so I don't get employed by any one studio. I have multiple studios that kind of reach out to me, and it's just been by word of mouth. I've just been around always saying yes to the opportunities and then continue to grow and build. And I think a big part of it is too is just really caring and really liking the material. Being a gamer helps. Because then you have to kind of know how things sound. It's like, okay, this sounds like, a first person shooter. This sounds like a Resident Evil. This sounds like a JRPG. You know, or this one sounds like Genshin Impact. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of things like that. So um, there's not a direct path. There's not even a directors union, or there's a directors union, but there's not a directors union for voiceover directors. I know,
I
buddy. I
did not
know.
know that.
Yeah, I always like, why are we not part of the DGA? They're like, no. Okay, I was like, okay,
Oh, I thought that covered all kinds of directors. Wow, I didn't.
right. I know. I know.
So which one, in your opinion, since you've done both, and in your opinion, because everybody pays different, of course, each studio pays different. Which one, on average, usually pay better? Is it the directing or the actual voice?
Wow, that's a good question. Okay, so I think it all comes down to whether or not it is a union job for the voice actor or if it's a non-union job for the voice actor. There's certain rates, obviously, that happen union wise, and like we just got out of, well, I say just, but we just finished finally got out of like that strike, the acting strike. You know, and so often games that choose to do non-union will have kind of a non-union rate. But I would say video games tend to pay more than dubbing. So if you're dubbing like an anime, it tends to pay the least amount of money for voice actors and also voice directors. If you're doing video games, it tends to pay more, just probably strictly because like there's less time that they might you might be needed. Maybe you come in and do an NPC, and so it's like one day of work, a non-playable character versus like, oh, I'm voicing this character through like 13 episodes, something like that. So I would say though, on a union job for a day rate, the voice actor tends to actually make more than me at this moment, but not all the time. So it's kind of a sliding scale because every game has its own budgets, and even SAG has different tiers now in their new contract in terms of where like what the big budget is, and then how much they have to actually pay an actor and stuff like that. Um, so I would say it's kind of even. However, what will say this, sometimes, if you're going in for a SAG job as a voiceover actor, you might be called in. Normally, you get booked for 4-hour time slots, but maybe you only have like 10 lines. You're still going to get paid for those full 4 hours of work. And so that's really lucrative. You don't always get those jobs, but it's like, great. I just did those, and I had those 10 lines, and they're done. And so now I got paid for those full 4 hours of work today. So I'm good to go. And I said, thanks so much, guys. See you later. So that tends to be the case. You know, and so yeah, and each studio pays kind of differently. So it is kind of, it's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. I think, let's put it this way. I think everybody is getting paid the amount that they should be getting paid for the amount of time and work that they're putting into it and their craft. The only thing I will say is I do not think that the engineers get enough money. The engineers are sitting there, who are kind of helping to float everything, keep the studio together, like running Pro Tools, like trying to understand what I say as a director. Like, I'm like, "Can we take
Yeah.
this take?" You know, I think they are very underpaid, unfortunately. Yeah, and I'm there for all the engineers, like they're all, be nice to your engineers, guys. Please be nice to your engineers. Like don't treat them like someone who's just running the computer, the keyboard, and and like just be nice to them. They're awesome people. They care. They tend to really like video games or whatever they're doing. They love sound. They love engineering. They love working with actors. So you know what I mean? So it's like, just be nice to them. And I also I say that as a director, but I also say that as an actor too. So like, for both actors and directors listening, be nice to everybody you work with. There's no reason to have an attitude.
I don't know, those long, they're still human. Long hours tend to,
Yes.
especially just stressful, like you were saying. Sometimes there's time crunch. I just get to a point to people like, you know what, man, I'm sick of looking at your face. I'm sick of looking at these spreadsheets. I'm sick of looking at this clock. So yeah, I never, man, that's another thing I never thought about. Engineer, unsung heroes. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh, yes, they are.
Yeah,
They are, because 'cause they're also making you sound really good, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
they're the ones who are, like, on the fly fixing things and, tweaking things, and, like, I can't run Pro Tools, you don't want me to run Pro Tools. I could probably learn it, but man,
I,
I don't
I've
want to.
I've seen those setups. I've seen every slider and knob. I'm like, bro, none of these are marked, so I don't know what each one does. I got to work with a guy who worked with Crunchyroll, who did ADR, and it was at a convention. They did this cool thing where they brought an actual professional to walk people through how running in a booth is. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna sound terrible. He gave me small direction. I was able to do it. And he's like, yeah, this is what you sound like. I was like, surprisingly enough, I like the way that sounds. My voice sounds all right coming from this character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this is just a mock run, and this guy has me sound like I should actually voice this character. I was like, gosh, dog, man, that is so cool for like a fake recording. It's like,
But I'm gonna say
man,
one thing about that, Michael, for you. is that you also just did it right then and there, right? So in that moment, you decided to go up and do it, and you were telling me you hate the sound of your voice, but
I
you
do.
listen back and you were like, "Damn, okay." Right? So that's how you get through it, buddy. Like, a good job.
Okay, but granted, it's because the guy was a professional. So like I chalked it up to like, okay, of course he's gonna make it sound good. He understands like what this character needs. I'm not a professional editor. I do simple video edits and like I can pitch the audio a little bit, but I don't know how to do color grading. I don't know how to
Mm,
do
yeah.
like
Yeah, I
full.
tried.
I'm so bad at it. uh, when it comes to audio, I can't do all the pitches and whatnot. I could just change volume. That's it. I can't do the whole. All right, do an audio scratch and a stretch, and I was like, I don't know what that is, man. I just see the waves go in and out. That's all I know.
Mhm.
And so like trying to do audio editing and seeing what actual audio editing is, I'm like, yeah, no. There's a reason I sound good with this guy doing it. And then when I record it, I'm like, nah. But no, I've worked on my confidence a bit. Like I said, I started doing at this convention called SoonerCon, which is coming up. I love SoonerCon. It's in Oklahoma. I don't know if
Look
you
at
have
that.
you ever been. Yeah,
I
uh,
have never been, no.
it is honestly hands down, and I say this all the time to people, and I truly do mean this. SoonerCon is one of my favorite conventions to go to. But there is a group that comes in and they do these old timey radio show kind of things, and they pick a group of people to come up on stage and do like this short radio play that takes like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. If I have a script in front of me, absolutely, I can do it. If I'm doing it live, for some reason, I have no problem talking in front of people. Well, doing all these panels and stuff at convention, it kind of got a thing for me. Recording is a different thing. I'm recording by myself, and I'm just like, no, nobody can know this ever existed. Delete, delete. But doing it in front of people with a script live is fun for me. By myself in a room, not so much.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you've recorded plenty of stuff on your own in your own room. So for someone like me, I'm just gonna get personal for me. This is my tip. This is for me right now.
Okay, let's
Uh,
go, let's go, let's go, okay.
I can do a voice recording in front of a professional, somebody that I know is gonna make me sound good. I can do that hands down, easy. All right. Doing it by myself, that confidence comes way down, and I don't trust myself to sound good and deliver. How can I direct myself to recreate working in front of a professional ADR when I'm doing this by myself, knowing full well I cannot edit audio?
Good question. I'm gonna say this. 1, you can only control what you're doing, right? I sat down and I listened to auditions, for a game, um, and I didn't know what the game was. I just knew the character brief that I was given, but how they were sent to me in alphabetical order from the agency. So whichever agency started with A, I started at the top and I listened down from the beginning to the end. So I realized the top agents that started with an A, I was listening to first. And then by the time I got to like in the middle of like the M's or something, I was starting to get tired of listening because I heard so many auditions. Cause like each agent would be like, okay, here's this agent that starts with an A. And then I'm now listening to these like 15 to 25, 30 roles all doing the same audition. Um, 80% of the stuff that I listened to was not good. Okay. Overall, I was impressed with how much was not good. And this is one of the first, like, self-tape auditions I got to do. I've run sometimes live auditions, which are very different because I can work one-on-one with someone and tweak it, and I know, and then we have clients there and stuff like that. The things that I could tell were, 1, the audio quality was not good, right? Not their performance, just the audio quality in general was not good. So what I'm gonna say is that if you're auditioning already, like that. 1, invest in a really nice microphone or invest in a space to sound like to sound dampen your space. So I don't want to hear like vroom, like I don't want to hear the air conditioner. Like I was surprised like 1,000 of the auditions were like, I'm doing this. It's really hot out. I'm going to do this in front of the air conditioner. And I was just like, I can't even hear them speaking over the air conditioner. You know what I mean? So just know that just purely by like literally covering yourself in a blanket for it already puts you 60% ahead of everyone. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So the blanket thing actually works?
Oh, dude, it 100% works, especially if you don't have a room, if you don't have a closet you can go in or anything like that. If you can set up 2 chairs and sit under a blanket, you're golden. Like,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, if you wanna be a kid again and you wanna have a blanket for it in your living room, you do it. You know what I mean? 100%. As long as you can, like, dampen the sound so it doesn't sound like you're in a big room, is it right? Because so that's number 1. Number 2, you can use Audacity. I actually use Audacity to record my auditions. Everybody like some of my audio engineer friends laugh at me. They're like, "You're using Audacity," but I'm like, "Yeah, it's free and it's easy." But I use Audacity. All I do with Audacity when I record, I don't over edit my auditions. Like you have to make sure your sound floor is low enough. So like again, sitting in a room, hopefully no one's taking a shower, you can't hear pipes or like the dog's not barking or whatever else. You know what I mean? Just try to mitigate that as much as you possibly can. You know, I then just run it through. I go over and I just do a low pass and I do a normalize, and that's it. Then I send it. Now, that's all you really need to do. I just lower it down and then I bring it up. Right. I try to make all the peaks even. So if I get really loud at one point, I try to make them all even. So in the tiny ones, I lower it down and then I just bring it all up to like just normalize it to like 6.5, I think, which is right in negative 6.5. And that's it. You shouldn't really be editing the audition much more than that, other than like cutting and sliding and over things like that. I love to hear when I'm listening to auditions pre and post life. So if you're like trying to get ready to like fight someone or something, and like the line is like "Get back here," I want to hear like a "Get back here." You know what I mean? I want to hear that effort at the top, as opposed to just "Get back here." It just doesn't feel as real by adding life at the beginning or the end or other things like that. That adds that extra thing, you know. If it's an animation and I'm auditioning, I'm gonna read through the tops of the lines and it says, "Oh, he falls down the stairs and then speaks." I'm going to make that sound of me falling down the stairs and speaking, right? Because the animation says to do that. So I'm going to go, okay, that was great, right? So I'm going to do those sounds because I need to, right? So I'm going to add those things in. That just by doing that alone is already going to should already boost your confidence because you're already going to be doing 65% more than everybody else who thinks they can audition for voiceover does. Okay. So those in itself should already boost your confidence by doing those things. Then, then it's just literally just like finding the takes that you like the best. What I would say is this: if you have a line, do an A and a B, an A and a B of the line, give or an A, B, and a C, meaning that each one's slightly different, right? So like I'm saying this line this way. I'm saying this line this way. I'm saying this line this way. And go, cool. Which one kind of feels like it fits the best on what's going on? I'm gonna pull that C in, that last one I just did. I'm gonna pull that guy down, right? And then I'm gonna just edit it like that. And that's all you really need to do edit wise. You don't really need to touch it much because they don't want to hear it done crazy amounts of stuff. Um, and that should already kind of make it feel a little bit like that. Now, again, you could think, "Hey, I think the character sounds like this," and then the person listening to it who's tired, who's like on studio, like on Agent 7, is like, "I don't even care anymore," and then your audition never even gets listened to. So if you just remove that element of, "Is this good?" to, "I'm doing the best I can in this moment that I think I am," and then just, that's I think that's what I want you to think about, going forward to do your auditions and stuff like that. Is just how do you how do you do the best you can? And if you're not sure it's the best you can, listen back and go, okay, close your eyes and say, did I like that first take or that second take? And why? And if you don't know, then maybe they're too similar. But it's like, did I like that first or that second take? And then there's whatever the scene is, like if they're getting ready to punch someone, like which one feels like it's the most alive. I'm going to take that B take and I'm going to put that in there. And then just trust your gut that you kind of know that you know what you're doing. And eventually, like, and half the time it's just guesswork. It's never as good as auditioning, like, in a live ADR session with someone. It just never is. Um, and it's just a way to speed up the process for them, because they don't necessarily have the time or the budget to have people come in to do the live stuff. And it also boils down to just getting more time in front of a mic and spending more time, you know, working with people who have been doing it and kind of understand, you know, the ins and the outs of stuff. So you're doing it though. And that ADR guy was awesome if he made you feel so good too. So that was good. That was great. That sounds like it was a really great experience, Michael. Did I answer your question? I feel like I just
No,
rambled. I feel like I
no,
just
no,
rambled.
no, you did. To know that you've already been through all that nonsense, yeah, the confidence break and getting over the hump, you know, trying to get yourself back on that horse. That's my problem now, is getting back on that horse because it got to the point where it was like, that was a great experience. I can't replicate that experience in my own home because it's just me and I don't like the sound of me. And I did get picked up for a couple of animation stuff, but
Yeah,
nothing has come of it because I don't know. I guess they're in production hell or something. And the creators of both of those shows that I got picked for completely ghost everybody. So it's like, and I hear that happens a lot. So I don't feel too bad about it. But I was like, man, it was great because we did a trailer. I recorded one episode for one of them, and we had like this cool teaser trailer for it. And I showed my nieces and nephews. I was like, hey, look, your uncle is like in this little YouTube cartoon. And they're just like, okay. We hear you all the time. We don't care. So it's like, oh, great. That's
you're
awesome.
like, but I was so happy about that though,
Yeah, man,
guys.
I was
Like,
so proud of myself. Of course, my mom was proud. She's like,
yeah,
yeah, that's my
yeah,
child.
yeah.
And even my little brother's like, oh, yeah, that's you. So let's just do some fun, dumb questions
Sure.
to go ahead and wrap this
I
up.
love fun, dumb questions. Let's do it.
Right. Uh, if you can choose a video game series to work on, what
Hmm.
video game series would you love to be?
Well, it's funny because 2 came to my mind right away, and then, of course, I'm gonna be like, okay. Actually, wow, okay. Here's what I'm gonna tell you right now. It's an old game, PlayStation, only made 1 version of it. They left it with a cliffhanger at the end, and there was a fan, like, startup that was like, "We need to have a sequel," and they never did. Legends of Dragoon.
Oh wow! Wait, no, the Dragoon series. I think they have two games.
No.
No,
If they do, this is the first I've heard of it.
no, Panzer.
Legend
The Xbox had Panzer.
Panzer Dragoon is a different series entirely.
Is it? I thought they were
Yes.
both. Oh wow!
No, no, no. The
I
Legend
thought
of
Panzer was like a
Dragoon.
spiritual sequel.
Yep. Nope. Nope.
Oh my
Panzer Dragoon is
goodness!
one that you fly on and, like, it's like a third person kind of fly
Yeah,
shooter
yeah,
thing, I
yeah.
think. Yeah. No. No, this is like a JRPG, Sony JRPG from years ago, 3 discs. I think 3 discs or 4.
I remember that
Um,
game. I never played it, but I remember it because I was like, "What is this?" Because I was. It was at a time where I was not used to Japanese games, and it was
yep.
like, "What? I don't know what this is."
I would literally, like, love to work on that game in multiple ways, but also, like, just because I loved it so much as a child, I loved that game so much. I don't know if it still holds up. I haven't played it again. I'm kind of worried to, like, play it again and going like, "Oh, man, doesn't feel the same as it did when I played it," but, like
Yeah, playing a lot of those old games with the old control, not the modern control, because if you play with modern control, it's not gonna feel right. But playing with some of the old controls,
Mhm.
I have some of the old PlayStation. I have the PlayStation 4, the 3. I still need to find the PlayStation 1. But going back to some of those old controls, it feels so weird because they have no real weight to them. And it feels like at any
Yep.
time they're just gonna snap. So yeah, I know I get it. I'm also well, except the Xbox. I still play the original Xbox. That controller was
Oh, yeah. That monster. I
the
love that.
Duke.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So you want to do Dragoon. So would it be like a faithful remake or kind of like a remaster? Like how would you want to do
I think it's gotta be a similar remake to the way they're doing Final Fantasy VII, but also release it all in one go, as opposed to really dragging it out and trying to make each part 60 hours.
it?
I don't think
Right.
Final Fantasy VII needs to be 100 what, 240 hours long. I don't think it needs that, like, you know, like I think if they had just done a one-to-one, released it all, like, even if they were like, "Hey, we're working on it, we're working on it, we're working on it. It's gonna take us 10 years to bring it out." I think people would have been okay. I mean, I guess people can play it now and people really love it, but, jumping on the end of that, I think I probably that would have been Final Fantasy would have been another one of the games that I wish that I could, like, be involved in some way. Um, just because Final Fantasy series was also a really big, part of my childhood. Um, but I still have to stick with Legend of Dragoon, I think, just because it's the underdog.
So if you could direct, you could do an anime movie based off of a game. Would it still be Dragoon, or would you feel that's more of a series kind?
If I could do an animated movie based off of a game,
Because like
um,
everybody's doing video game movies now. Like that's the
I
big
know,
trend.
I know. Um, man, I feel like it wouldn't be Dragoon only because I don't know how I feel like I don't know how it would translate animation wise because of it's been so long since I've played it. Um, but I will say I do think that if I could, it may be the closest thing to ever really being able to come to fruition. And when I say this, I mean like this is this is not like I'm lower dropping anything crazy because this has not been talked about at all. But I think it would be neat to see an actual like movie done with the Delta Force game. Um, I think that'd be really cool to see. Mainly because working so close to the writing team and stuff, and seeing all like the backstories and the history that they've been creating with their new operators that they always add in, and the lore behind it, I think, and the quality in which the cutscenes for the new seasons come out, they just look so good. And I think it would translate really well to like a feature film with them and maybe even like a succession, not necessarily a succession to Delta Force the movie, because obviously there was already a movie Delta Force, and I directed the remake of that game, the first the of that the first player campaign, first person player campaign, um directed the voiceover performance capture stuff, of the facial capture for it. Um, so I think that would be probably one that I would be like, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to do. By the way, I'm horrible at it. I am so bad at it. I
I've yet to
tried.
play it.
It's a tough one. It's a toughie. It's very, very tactical. Especially the Black Hawk down campaign. Um, it is like if you peek out at the wrong time, game over. Like, so yeah.
Maybe that's why people love it so much, because it has that grounded realism,
Mm, mhm.
which is too much for me. I can't. I do not. I don't have the patience for it. Because if I like get through like in 1 hour campaign and be like, oh man, I'm almost at the end, and I get sniped, I'm like, you know what?
Yep,
Nah, man, this is a form. I'm not starting over. It's like, oh, your checkpoint is halfway. I don't care. I'm halfway done.
yep.
And I think that's the reason. I think that's the reason I can't do Souls games. Like
Oh, man.
I've tried. I'm like, you know what? The
The first
game.
boss as I said, the first boss in Elden Ring took me, like, I think 4 hours to beat.
It's
I know.
because the game is one big troll. It's like, oh, you're used to the game. Nah, you're not. We're gonna have a creature that looks like a statue jump out and, oh,
Mhm.
okay,
And rip your face off, game over. You're like, "Damn it.
yeah,
Okay."
and you're on a balancing beam. You know what? Just for the giggles, we're gonna have a monster for no reason at all drop on top of you, knock you off of the balance beam. Why? Because we can. Because we don't like you. You for some reason you decided to play this game. Like, man, you got to be a masochist if you love these kind of games.
I yeah, I had fun streaming it. I streamed it because I stream, and I had fun streaming it, but, like, man, I was like, "Man, I played that for 4 hours, and I just beat the first boss." Like, I didn't get anywhere in that game. Like, nowhere.
I did somewhat enjoy Bloodborne.
I haven't tried that one.
But Bloodborne, I don't know if it's easier than the other Souls games. Like it kind of feels like a spin-offish kind of deal. And I don't know if it's just simpler for people like me who can't handle Souls games, or if it's just kind of like the controls are tighter. 'Cause that's one of the things that gets me. Roles. Oh, they get me. So I don't know what it is about Bloodborne. That one I had a better time with.
Ah,
If you could turn Annie into a live action film, would you rather write it and be part of the production, such as like kind of like a producer, or would you rather direct or star in it?
well, I'm definitely gonna have to play Annie. I'm sorry. No.
You can't play. If you're gonna do a live action Annie, we have to CGI you as the little
Yeah,
one,
exactly, and then I'm also gonna and we have to change it to Arnold. Uh,
but not
um,
Hey Arnold.
yeah, no, not Hey Arnold. I think they definitely did a movie version of Annie.
Oh, they've done multiple.
I was gonna say, yeah, they've done so many of them. Um, I think that the thing is that there's not a good character that I feel that I would fit in Annie. It's like, um it's just been a while since I've seen it. Like, maybe the garbage guy who, like, sneaks her out in the garbage from Miss Hannigan's, like I'm trying to remember, like, her orphanage. I think there's a guy that, like, she hops in the garbage, and I don't know if he knows he's doing it or if she just does it, and she gets snuck out in the guy so she gets out, I think, you know? By the way, if you haven't watched it, I'm not lore dropping or breaking it. It's like it's been out for a long time. So I feel like that would be who I would play probably if I got to. Like, I think I'd love to play Rooster, but uh, but I don't see me as that, if that makes sense. I don't think that I would.
Yeah, well,
Um,
you can do the modern Hollywood thing. It's like extend the movie and like add in new characters. If for some reason modern Hollywood
that's
likes to
true.
when they do these remakes, it's oh the original movie was like 90 minutes long. Nah, it's gotta be like 2 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes. I was like, why? Why are you adding so much more stuff in there? You could just do that.
I guess, yeah, yeah, yeah. We'd figure out a way. Maybe we'd send Andy somewhere else. Um,
Have her go on a side quest before she gets to Daddy Warbucks.
yeah, she buys the orphanage. Like, I actually don't remember how it finishes with, like, Miss Hannigan and, like, she does go with Daddy Warbucks, but I don't remember what happens to the actual orphanage.
I don't remember. Wait, didn't Daddy Warbucks donate or bought it or something?
Did he buy it? Maybe he did. Like, maybe he, like, gets her arrested because she was, like, being really
She's
bad to
abusive,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna say I wanna say Warbucks buys the orphanage and, like, hires somebody or does something to take care of the
Wait,
kids.
does he hire the garbage guy? Now I feel like maybe he hires the garbage guy or someone like that, like, who takes over, because I don't think he does. Like,
No, no,
he's
no,
the philanthropist. Like,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, "I already have one kid, Danny, who I adopted." Oh, Mr. Hmm, I was gonna say Mr. Brownlow, but now I'm getting that mixed up with Oliver, a whole different person. Okay, I don't know. So this is it just says, okay, this is the first thing that comes up on Google, which of course is like Google AI, which who knows if this is actually the one that, but it just says permanent home with billionaire Oliver Warbucks, who officially adopts her. Um, I know there's got to be a good tie up to the kids at the orphanage. I don't know. I don't know. But we'll do an Annie, but we'll spread it across 10 years. Annie part 1. It'll be like Annie slash Avatar. There we go. We'll do
And he's like, and he meets Avatar. Wow. So it's gonna take like multiple movies. You're gonna do like
yeah,
a
Annie 6, up to 6, yeah, I think. Yeah, they have to be. They all have to be musicals.
Origins of Annie.
There you go, there you go. But that's the prequel, but I like that, yeah. Although, like, she's already kinda young to begin with, so if you feel like the origins would be like it's like maybe it's about her
About
parents?
her parents, yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. And why they have to give her up? And I think there's something to do with a car accident or something, if I remember correctly.
You gotta be careful. Netflix be all over that. You know what?
I know.
I like the way you guys think. Make most movies out of this. Let's do it.
Watch this, watch this. You have it here first. If all of a sudden we see that there's, like, this whole, like, Andy TV show now, we'll know they were listening. You'll be like, "They were listening to my stuff."
Yeah, the Annie cinematic universe. We're, we're gonna get spinoffs of Daddy Warbuck and how you made it. We're gonna find out how how the orphanage came to be.
Mhm.
Everybody gets an origin story.
There we go, there we go. How Miss Hannikin became an alcoholic.
Yeah. What led her down this dark path in the beginning? And they're gonna do like a Cruella de Vil kind of thing. Where like, no, no, she's just
Mm,
misunderstood. She's not a evil person. She was
yeah,
just treated wrong, and that's it's wrong. It's like,
it'll just be
well,
called Hannigan. There you go.
ooh,
Ooh, I
from,
like that.
from the world of Annie.
Yeah, and I think Hannigan has Annie in it, doesn't it?
Hanny. So you can kind of put
Han
like the H in there, but it's like still says Annie, like a
Yes.
stylized
Oh,
way.
yes, dude. Dude, we figured it out. This is it. This is it. This is it. I
who,
love this. The dark adaptation of Annie just called Hannigan.
who owns the rights to Annie anyway?
I don't know, but now now
Maybe-
now we're going down that path. Okay, let's see. Directed by John Hudson, based on Annie. Okay, okay. Charles Strauss.
Oh no.
Uh,
The film and TV rights is owned by Sony, Columbia Pictures.
it means we're never gonna get it. We're
Netflix
never
would jump
gonna
over
get
that.
That's true. Netflix will just buy them.
But you know, Sony and Netflix get along. They got a great partnership going.
Okay.
Annie, we could do Annie the anime.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I like that.
Pretty sure Sony also owns Crunchyroll, so it's a win-win for them. They win all
There
around.
you go. There you go. See, we figured it out. We figured it out. We'll be starting our Kickstarter in a couple of months.
Oh yeah, but first we just got to make sure that Sony is okay. No, no, no. What we got to do is like viral style. We got to do it by modern day internet style. We don't even
Mm.
ask Sony. We just we shoot like a cool pilot the way Deadpool was done, and then the internet be like, oh, this is really cool. How come Sony isn't all over this? And next thing you know, somebody at Sony Pictures. You know what? Let's do this. You guys say you want to do this for Netflix? Let's go. This was fun. This is something that I really wanted to when it's brought up to me. I was like, yes, yes, I will love to interview Mark. Please, let's do this. I've never interviewed a voice director before. I've always uh, interviewed voice actors. So to me, the director is actually pretty cool. So, Mr. Mark, before we get out of here, is there anything you would like to plug or anything you would like to tell people about? Something that you're working on, something that you can actually talk about, more of your stuff with Twitch.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, yeah, a lot of the stuff currently is like all NDA'd, unfortunately, but I can say you can check out like Trails in the Sky first chapter, like came out last September. It's doing pretty well. So that, very very proud of that. And you can check out the new season of Delta Force, which is now currently out to play. So pretty proud of that game as well. And multitudes of other games, and new content drops and things like that, in maybe the MiHoYo universe. But aside from that, there's a lot of stuff on the horizon that again I still can't really talk about. But you can find me on my socials, which I guess would be like Mark Hawes, and or Twitter or X, depending on what you still want to call it, Hawes, or Instagram, which is just Mark Hawes. So, but it has been such a pleasure to talk to you, Michael.
Yeah, no, this was fun. Our first interview of 2026. And I say it was a
I
pretty
feel
it's a
honored.
pretty
I
good one.
feel honored.
Yeah, no, I'd say it was actually a pretty good one. It definitely sets the bar for the rest of my for me, for me personally, for the rest of my interviews for this year. So, Mark, thank you for joining us, and can't wait to see what you do in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.